welcome back to another exciting episode of DCAU Talkers, where we talk all things DCAU. My name is Brandon.
My name is Ty.
And today we continue on with our review of Batman the Animated Series by going over the 14th episode to premiere, The Clock King. And like I said, it's the 14th episode to premiere. It is the 25th produced. The synopsis of this episode: when a maniacally punctilious man faces financial ruin because of attorney Hamilton Hill, he transforms into the devious Clock King. The cast for this episode: Kevin Conroy as Batman Bruce Wayne, Lloyd Barchner as Mayor Hamilton Hill, still a dick, Bob Hastings as Commissioner James Gordon, truck driver Efren Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred Pennyworth and the judge, Mary Devon as Summer Gleason, Miss Perkins, Jeff Bennett as office boy, cab driver, and cop, and Alan Rockins as Clock King Temple Fugit. This was directed by Kevin Altieri, written by David White. Now, let's go over some of the trivia behind this. Now, the Clock King's real identity is Temple Fugit, whose name is an allusion to the Latin expression Tempus Fugit. Time files is what it's translated to. And the Clock King's address is given as 362 Breyfogle. Norm Breyfogle was an artist that worked on Batman comic books for almost a decade. Now, the Clock King, efficiency experts who make uncanny use of timing, comes from DC Comics, though his character is much different from the animated version. The original Clock King was named William Talkman, and his crimes were motivated by the need to provide for his sister when he mistakenly believed he was dying of illness. The Clock King first appeared as a rogue of Green Arrow, but is probably best known for his membership on Task Force X, and thus a rogue of Batman and sometimes the Justice League. What do you think about that backstory from the comics compared to what they gave here?
I guess that one's a little bit better because in this one it's kind of stupid. Like, oh, you need to relax. How about taking your coffee at 3:15 and just doing something else? And he just goes to the park and then everything just mess up. Like that's the stupidest reason to become a villain compared to the comic book side of the story. You know what I mean?
Well, there seems like there's more, like, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but how they talk about this maybe being another tragic villain. It's like, if they did that, I can understand. But it's like, yeah, it's like he tries to do something out of the ordinary, and then everything falls apart. And, but even then, it's just one of those, like, kind of things. Like, yeah, it's there kind of thing. Now, the Clock King's strategy of studying Batman, which I thought was pretty clever, before engaging him directly, would later be repeated in the episode Bane, which we know Bane can be like that any day of the week. He's the man who broke the bat. He is the one that caused Batman all his trouble, right? At around 11 minutes of the episode, Batman and Alfred are parked at Toth Street, named after legendary artist Alec Toth, responsible for numerous character designs, including Super Friends, Space Ghosts, and Birdman, among others. Now, let's go into your initial thoughts when it did come to the Clock King episode. Like, what was your thoughts on the episode overall, and what was your take on the Clock King himself?
At this point on this show, I felt like he was probably the closest one to kill Batman.
Okay.
Okay, so when Batman got trapped, he studied him. So he's like, oh, your torch is gonna take like 17 minutes, while the bomb is like 15 minutes. Oh, and if you do this, it's gonna blow up. So he was killing him by taking the oxygen out instead of poisoning the gas. So he tricked him with the gas mask. He was actually the closest villain to killing the Batman from what I've seen. But Batman, of course, being Batman, still managed to outsmart, but he almost didn't make it. So That's all my take on this villain. I don't understand why some villains won't just like, just do it. You know what I mean? They always got to give the hero a chance, but he was literally the closest one to finishing off. Even though his revenge is kind of stupid,
Yeah,
but
like that's kind of my point, and that's kind of where I was at too. Like, I agree with you in that sense. Like, he is a very tactile villain. He in that time fixation, it's what makes him so intriguing to watch. But the thing is that yeah, you don't really get that sense of caring for him because it's sense of your revenge, like you said, your reason for your vengeance is not really valid. The only way I could see it is that it screwed up your court case. But that's also your decision why you did what you did. You didn't have
yeah,
to do that. It's one person's view compared to others. Now, the only reason he also went after him, it was Mayor Hill's firm.
yeah.
That
They
killed
explained it in the show,
Yeah, I had to go back into that because I was like, I can't. It's been a long time since I've watched this episode, and so you got to remember that's part of it too. So maybe Hill was playing games with him, right? So there's a chance of that as well. But the Clock King to me is kind of a throwaway villain. Like, he's there for a moment. And for me, it's like, I know he comes back because he's in, I think, another episode of the Batman the Animated Series, and he's also in Justice League. It's just like, yeah, he's back. Like, he wasn't off at the end of that episode. It was, yeah, it's there kind of thing. And I still enjoyed it. I wouldn't put this as a high mark for me, but it's a throwaway episode. It was a filler episode to me.
but it was a lot of like, the brain working episode. I can't word it, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's a very like,
tactic.
yeah, very
It was like
tactile, very an episode you had to pay attention to.
the only thing I didn't really like was like his plan was to use the clock to crush him, right? But the thing was, how would it crush him? It would just go like this. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like how would it?
there is something funny about that scene. You ready?
Yeah.
How the Clock King always states it's supposed to hit him at 3:15, right?
Hmm.
The clock was at 3:60
Oh, wow.
when you see him, because if you see him, he's a little slanted.
Probably from the weight, maybe.
It made me laugh so hard when I looked at it, and I was like, "It's like that's not 3:15. Like, for you to be on the dot on certain times and everything, it's 3:16, buddy." Like,
That reminds me when Batman confronted him on a roof. He was like, the train is always 6 minutes late, and I'm just sitting there like, shouldn't they just change the time then? If it's always 6 minutes late, then that's the actual time. If the train is always 6 minutes late, they should change the schedule. Like, okay, this is the actual time. Like,
we gotta throw the Clock King off. Just make sure all the times are off completely. That's his weakness.
imagine he studies all the like the times for like stuff, and then here's the new paper. We fix the time. Oh no, I just finished studying it.
or or he gets there and and the train's already passed. It was 5 minutes early, and he shows up at his meeting like, yeah, I missed a train. I guess I was late. It was 5 minutes early. It just yeah. Again,
He
another throwaway character. Now let's talk about this because I was reading a lot of people's reviews on this episode, and that a lot of people feel like Clock King is a very sympathetic villain. Do you view him as a sympathetic villain? I know we kind of talked about silly, but do you feel like he's sympathetic?
hell no.
Like, I can understand how some view this, and I can see it. It's not like, but to me, it was his choice too.
Exactly.
He didn't have to do what he did. He didn't have to do all this. He decided to listen to somebody's advice and went and did what he did. I'm not giving Hill a little credit there. Hill's still a dick. But I've never liked Hill. But it just shows you, like, I think that was the only reason I enjoyed it per se, was that I did like that they kinda highlighted Hill as maybe not all that great of a person. And we
Yeah.
kinda already got that with his son and how he treated his son, but not once did I feel like, okay, he's just out for reelection, he's out for power. This one made him like, these are your past decisions that haunt you now. But even then, it's like all he told you to do was take a break at 3:15 instead of 3. You know,
Or take his coffee
yeah,
at
take his coffee.
3:15.
That was one of my other favorite scenes of them. He's his assistant's like, "Oh, here's your 3 o'clock coffee and your files you were asked for." He goes, "Put it in a thermos," and she's like,
Mm.
"But I understand why people view him as sympathetic. To me, he's not. He's there. Like, you know what he's doing. It's not like, even then, like, when you think a sympathetic villain, especially in this series, you think somebody like Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is a very sympathetic villain. The fact that he wouldn't even be a villain if he was still doing what he was doing to try to save his wife. And it was Boyle who ruined all that for him, right? Here, all Hill told him to do was take his coffee break 15 minutes later. And all he was doing was just giving him advice. He wasn't telling them what to do. He was just telling him, hey, maybe try to do something different. Do
Because
this.
he wanted him to relax. That's what.
Yeah. Not once did I feel like his things were mischievous, because even when he was telling him, like, oh, well, hey, it was your firm that caused me all this trouble. He didn't even know anything about it. He was just like, what? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think he was doing that. I think he was trying to be just a normal human. But I don't know. That's why I said it's just like I didn't find myself really caring about this villain. Now I agree with you, the fact that he almost offed Batman as he did. It can show you how maniacal he can be, but not once did I ever feel like he was sympathetic. Now, for this villain to have a fixation with time, what was your take on that as well? Because I think that's something different for Batman that he's gone up against.
Kind of weird. Like it makes him like you could tell he's a strict person. Like got to be on time. This and that. Like bro, there is no like relax in his dictionary. You know what I mean? There's like everything got to be perfect. Mr. Perfect, the
Mr.
Clock
Perfect.
King. You know, it's a weird character.
It's interesting to see, I see, like, it's interesting to have that fixation of time. Now that I did enjoy, because I kinda like that whole, like, oh, well, now like, he even knows the seconds of a punch with Batman. Like, that just shows you, like, again, another tactile thing, like, I've studied you. Because that during that 7 years, because that's the whole thing, is when you have that incident with Hill. And, like, going back to the sympathetic thing before I go back to this, and I forgot to mention this. The only reason I can see people feeling sympathetic is because he actually listens, trying to change his ways, and all he does is then it just hits one problem after another. What was it? He goes to the bench, he gets hit by a ball, which made me laugh for some reason. Like, he's like,
So technically, the kids are the main villain.
you're gonna do the whole bullet thing again. Like, the kids are the villain. and then his files get all scattered because the wind's blowing, and then he's late to his court session where his company now has to owe over $20 million, and then he screams, you know and then it goes 7 years later. It was okay. It was, I don't feel like that justifies him being sympathetic. Like, it's one bad day. It's kind of like that whole thing with with the Killing Joke, right? All it takes is one bad day.
Mhm.
It's kind of what happened to the Clock King. Mr. Freeze is a sympathetic character. His actions, everything that happened to him, was not by his choice. Here, it was his choice. He didn't have to. He could have did a whole different day, and that's how it is. But going back to the fixation of time, I think it's different. Again, it's like another obsession. When you really think about it, like how we talked about with Clayface and making sure he always looks good for the role, or how he always wants to portray his roles. the obsession of it. And that's his obsession is time. The design of him I really enjoyed. And going into things I love the cane that looks like the hour. I like that. I like his glasses with the little time o'clock or the 3 o'clock on it. I enjoyed that as well. I love the one of my favorite animated scenes is when they're on the gears and they're just twirling all over the place. I thought that was kind of clever. But let's go into things that we liked and disliked about this episode. What were some stuff that you enjoyed about this episode?
I remember watching this because of the beginning part where they mess with the stoplights. I remember that, so I was like, oh yeah, this is a good throwback because I remember this. And then like the part there when he's fighting with Batman, he's like, oh, I know precisely when you throw your punches. Like man, you are a real good stalker. Like god damn, you studied them real good. Like man, like I know exactly when you're constipated, because I study you so much. Like like to know
Was there
somebody.
when you were born.
I was there when you were born. I know 2 months ago you hurt your fingernail, so your punches is slightly off. Like man, I don't really know what I hate because the whole thing was just I already explained how the stupid clock, like how would it crush him? The clock would just go like this. His hand would probably just got hurt. But I'm like the whole time I'm just thinking like, what if he just stood up or just like hold to the side? Like he's not gonna get crushed. Like I'm just sitting there just. How was supposed to get crushed? Like the clock is like this. But I feel like he could have did better with the execution.
Yes.
But he's the clock king, so I guess he got to go big. But I just feel like that part is just so stupid. How he keeps saying, "Oh, you got to get crushed." Like, no, you're not. Just move your hand out the way. I already explained why I liked it because he was the only one so far to almost killing Batman. That's what I liked about it. Just some random dude, not even covering his face. Like, yeah, I almost got him, almost. These other villains, like Scarecrow and whatnot, covering themselves wasn't even that close compared to like this guy, random guy, obsession with time. Yeah, you know what? I made this character even better. If his catchphrase was, "I don't have time for this."
I don't got time
You
for this.
got time for this?
Nobody got time for this.
You know how much better his character development would have been if he was like, if like let's say him and the chairman are are chatting and he's just like, I don't got time for this.
The other thing is, and I'll admit it here, the way Mayor Hill's eyes are animated, I did not like that. Like that, the eyes, how he's drawn, I don't know why, it just was not Hill to me. Like, but that's why I said I know you get that with like Commissioner Gordon, how they draw his eyes, but his has always kind of stayed the same that way. Mayor Hill's, I was just like, no, that don't fit you. Like, I don't like that. But no, that's why I said this episode was kind of wonky for me. I was kind of all over the place with it because I was like, I don't remember the episode. I know the iconic scream from this episode. That's probably one of the only scenes I remember from this episode. But the only thing I really enjoyed was like I said, the final fight with them in the clock house or the clock tower and going on the gears to fight.
Clockhouse.
Clock house,
Coo, coo, coo.
cuckoo clock. Yeah, and let's go into our rankings. I'll put it right now. I have it at a 7. Like it's not the best episode. There's still good things about the episode. Like I said, it's just I like some of his weapons. Like I said, the cane being kind of a sword as well, but and then also too like his stopwatches. I did like that. Thought that was clever too. But it's not an episode I go, oh yeah, let's go watch.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's there. I don't need to watch it. It's okay. That's what I said. It's again. I felt like another filler episode. It was straight up a filler episode. What would you rank it on a scale of 1 to 10?
About a 7. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. I feel like it's a hard 7. it had the potential of being something better,
Yeah, because
but
I don't got time for this.
yeah, I don't got time for this.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But no, I think this is a great way to end out the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you like this content, you want more of it, please hit the like button. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Clapper, Blue Sky at Comic Talkers. Also, you can listen to our podcast for more great comic book anime content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And without further ado, my name is Brandon.
I'm tired.
And remember, nobody got time for that. No, I'm
Nobody got time for that.
but remember, we are vengeance. We are the night. We are DCAU Talkers.